think Al could kind of help you in terms of the legalistic aspect.
I was going to ask questions, may help. Just right down the street, the student center, not the student center, but next to it's called the Josephus Daniels building. I don't know if you saw when you were walking by.
I did.
And of course, what always has intrigued me, particularly about the Manly, and what happened to your family's fortune, you know, when your granddaddy was run out and his belongings were destroyed on film, the lawyer's dream, as compared to Josephus Daniels, who had a kind of a similar history to the Manly family. You go to the white side and the black side both. You know, he came from a long line of bourgeois in Raleigh, and was able to put this newspaper together in Raleigh, which some of his Democratic Party supporters funded, and Mr. Julian Carr, who Carver was named after, and who was the richest person in Durham for many years, helped because he was Daniels. So I think the comparison, a good comparison rather than the New York Times, is with the News Observer.
Right, right.
That we have two families, the Daniels family and the Manly family. Both of them had daily newspapers in 1895, 96, 97, 98. One of them still alive and making millions and millions of dollars every year.
Right.
And it's been sold out in the classy now, but you could have sold, let's say you inherited the
Daily Record.
Wilmington Daily Record,
Right.
and you know, when you came of age, like the Daniels over here did, and you could have sold them in classy and retired anywhere in the world. You got about half $500 million for it. That's how much classy paid for them and up. So a good way to compare, we have these two nice comparisons coming up. And of course, you ask who the defendants will be in the lawsuit. Of course, the corporation, the News Observer Corporation, and the remainders of the Julian Carr corporations. These are perpetual corporations by definition are perpetual. You go up to Delaware and incorporate themselves, and they keep going on and on forever. So that they have, just as Lewin has Sandy as the logical heir of Alex Manly, and the heir of Alex Manly's property that he would have had. The same is true for the Daniels family and the News Observer and the Carr family. So those are certainly two people two corporations that we think are prime candidates to be defendants in this lawsuit. And the other thing I think is useful in terms of compensation versus reparations or redress. The NAACP has always used the term redress because it could be like a class action where you say we want to get legal redress for, you know, all the people who were, let's say all the women who were sterilized by the Haynes hosiery factory in Winston-Salem, you know, just 50 years ago. That's a case that we're working on, and we're going to sue them. You know, Michael Jordan with his Haynes underwear. Well, that's the family that decided when Brown versus Boer was just getting passed to all young black women, they would say they were idiots and sterilized them, that didn't know how to read and write, basically, and they became idiots. That was from 47 to 60. And so that would be legal redress for those women. Legal redress in Wilmington can either be a class action kind of thing for Dr. Manly and all other similarly situated heirs of families who were run out, killed, or property was destroyed. Those would be the three things where we could quantify the loss.
What about the statute of limitations?
Let me just finish this.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Every lawsuit, every civil lawsuit, if you think about it, is for redress or reparations. we call it remedies, we call it compensation, punitive damages, compensatory damages. But really what we're trying to do, and every judge and every appellate decision says to try to make the injured party whole, W-H-O-L-E. That's the aim of all civil law. You get hit by a car down the street, the insurance company doesn't pay you off. You go in and argue to the jury. My client got hit by his client's car, and he spent $50,000 on hospital bills, and he can no longer have fun at home. And here's a picture of him sitting in his wheelchair, and the judge is going to say how much you think will make him whole. I mean, this is what I always argue to the judge. See, I can't put a dollar sign, on,
right.
Well, let's say we're talking about Dr. Manly, how long he's going to live and everything, but look at him, he's in pretty good health now. What, $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year, probably live 10, 15 more years. You figure it out, send it back to them. The juries have pretty good sense. And that's reparations. That's what that is. Lost income, lost property, lost goodwill, business goodwill. Think of the goodwill that his granddaddy would have built up by 1920, let's say. Think of the goodwill that would have been done with Wilmington, the largest port city on the East Coast, closest to Africa, run by black people and their white allies, could have opened up trade with Africa and begun to have a dynamic back and forth that would have helped both continents. Think of the lost opportunities that are there. I'd love to argue this case with juries. I'm already working.
We want you to argue.
But so I think it's a mistake to get caught up in reparations, redress, compensation. I think the best term is the one all lawyers use, which is what is the proper remedy? What remedy will make Dr. Manly whole? What remedy will make the other victims of this crime, this terrorist attack, make them whole? I believe it was a terrorist attack, incidentally. And I think that's the difference. Of course, race riots gives a totally wrong idea. But the rebellion, some people say the South rebelled against the Union when they seceded, so that's where that rebellion came from. But I think you were saying, Lewin, that in Atlanta in 1909, people were a little better prepared. Well, that's partly because they saw what happened in Wilmington.
That's right.
So this was a surprise attack. This caught everybody by surprise, and that's why I believe Larry's right, that there's some bad vibes in Wilmington. Terrorist attacks leave bad vibes. Leave a mystery there. Until you know about it, psychologically, it screws everybody. We saw that with 9/11. And the fact was, as Reverend Barber always says, more people per capita were killed in Wilmington on November 10th, 1898 than were killed in New York on September 11th. And so that's that. Now I forget the other question.
Well, I said statute of limitations, but what we want to know from you is, when is the NAACP going to move on this?
Well, we're working on it right now. We got people from Harvard, Charles Ogletree's group, people that helped. They brought a lawsuit in Oklahoma for John Hope Franklin, whose town was destroyed much later than 1898, and lost that on statute of limitations. There's some differences. John Hope Franklin's daddy was a lawyer, and his office was destroyed, and he had a hard time arguing that he didn't know who destroyed it and why he sat on his rights for 50 years, or John Hope sat on his granddad's rights. In other words, statute of limitations, usually the theory behind it is you know that something was done to you, and you have 3 years or 5 years or whatever to do it, and if you sit on your rights, that's what it's called, and don't sue, then you lose the right to sue on the grounds that whoever did it shouldn't have to worry about it for the rest of his life, without looking over his shoulder. In this case, we have an interesting analogy with what happened to the Japanese during the Second World War. It's called Korematsu case, particularly in California. And there where the government rounded everybody up and put them in concentration camps. Certainly the Japanese knew what was being done, people of Japanese descent, and didn't do anything about it, for 10, 15, 20 years, 30 years. But there was a similar kind of thing. There was this feeling, this bad vibes, they created bad vibes. And people kept talking about it, and it's the younger people, like the grandsons really, like you are, of the people who were victimized, began to come forward in the 1990s and pushed for a commission, an official commission, which studied it and showed how the government was involved in covering it up and covering up a lot of illegalities and brutalities and torture. And that commission then became the basis for a legal ruling that said the statute of limitations really were told, that means they didn't start running until people knew